Hello, here I am again, Alice Shapiro, your instructor, for a narration of the PowerPoint for the muscular system. This will be an overview, just emphasizing the structure and functions of the muscular system, and your homework for this unit includes identification of the muscles that I would like for you to remember and to be able to identify. So I won't spend time on those particular muscles per se during this screencast. The functions of muscle are for movement. Muscle working along with bones, the joints of bones, is responsible for movement, helping to maintain posture. And as I say that, I'm sitting up just a little bit straighter. Respiration, breathing, exhaling, inhaling, the intercostal muscles primarily, as well as the diaphragm, are involved in that process. Production of body heat. When you are cold, what do? You shiver. What is shivering but contraction of our skeletal muscles? Communication. Muscles in our jaw, mouth help us to speak. And also we could think of nonverbal communication, whereby we move in certain ways, use our bodies in certain ways. Heartbeat. The cardiac muscle is involved in heartbeat. Contraction of organs and blood vessels, primarily with smooth muscle. We will get back to cardiac muscle during the discussion of the cardiovascular system. And as we look at other organ systems of the body, we will become more familiar with the role of smooth muscle. Here are the three types of muscle: skeletal muscle, which we are concentrating on in this unit, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle, such as the linings of the hollow tracts, the gastrointestinal tract, the respiratory tract, reproductive tracts, and so forth. Again, the types of muscles, we just looked at those: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. Let's concentrate on skeletal muscle. What are the abilities of skeletal muscle? Contractility, which means the ability to shorten. Excitability, the response to stimulus. Extensibility, which means the muscles can stretch. And elasticity, which means muscles can recoil. Our skeletal muscles make up about 40% of our body weight. This is in a normal individual, not an obese individual. In obese individuals, of course, fat would make up a much higher percentage. They are named skeletal muscles because they attach to our skeleton. We're not going to look at the really cellular features of skeletal muscle. Cells of skeletal muscle are called fibers, but they do have many nuclei per cells. They appear striated or kind of striped when you look at them under the microscope, and they are the longest of our muscle types. Here is a diagram. These diagrams are in your textbook. The nuclei are located towards the surface. The striations or striping patterns occur because of the overlap of certain muscle fibrils, actin and myosin to be precise. Skeletal muscle has connective tissue coverings. The epimysium, epi means on top of, mysium refers to muscle. Notice that it surrounds an entire skeletal muscle. A muscle fasciculus is a bundle of muscle fibers, and the perimysium surrounds each of the fascicles. A muscle fiber is a muscle cell, and the endomysium is a connective tissue that surrounds each muscle fiber. Take a look at diagrams and make sure you understand what these various structures are and what their functions are. Muscles contract through electrochemical signals. There is a membrane after the synapse, the postsynaptic membrane, a synaptic cleft, and a synaptic vesicle. Neurotransmitters are involved. The primary chemical that stimulates muscle and inhibits muscle are neurotransmitters. An example is acetylcholine. A motor unit is a group of muscle fibers that are innervated by a certain motor neuron. And we have some diagrams of this. Here is the branch of the nerve fiber, the axon. The presynaptic terminal will release a neurotransmitter such as acetylcholine into the neuromuscular junction and will be received by the postsynaptic membrane, which will then stimulate the muscle fiber. This is what this looks like under a micrograph. Here is the axon, the postsynaptic membrane. This entire structure is called the neuromuscular junction. It is the junction between the neuron, nerve cell, and the muscle cell. More details. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about this, but I think understanding the overall process is important. There is a electrochemical signal transmitted along the axon called an action potential. This stimulates the presynaptic terminal to release a neurotransmitter such as acetylcholine. This acetylcholine is then received by a receptor molecule in the actual muscle fiber, and this then stimulates the muscle fiber to contract. We won't go into the details of the sodium and calcium ions, but they are involved in this process. And this shows you what happens after the acetylcholine stimulates the muscle fiber. The acetylcholine is then destroyed by acetylcholine esterase. This is so that you don't continuously stimulate your muscle fiber. All right, a little bit of anatomy. The origin of a skeletal muscle is the non-movable end. The insertion is the movable end. The belly of a muscle is basically the middle part. Understand what synergist means. Those are muscles that work together, and antagonists are muscles that oppose each other. For example, an antagonist to the triceps brachii would be the biceps brachii. One causes contraction or flexion of the forearm, that is the biceps. The triceps causes extension of the forearm. Synergists are muscles that work together. Here are some examples. As I said, biceps brachii causes flexion. The triceps cause extension. So these are antagonists. Muscles are named according to either their location, such as the tibialis anterior is located, and if you were here in class, I'm sure you would all answer, at the anterior of the tibia, or according to their origins and insertions, such as the sternocleidomastoid muscle, which originates at the sternum and inserts at the mastoid process. Size, gluteus maximus is the largest muscle of our gluteal region. Shape, deltoid is triangular, or function, the masseter is a muscle involved in chewing. Here's our friend, the anterior of the muscular system. You will see label diagrams. You will also have homework in which you will label many of the external muscles of the skeletal system. I'm not going to name them for you now. This also shows the tendons and ligaments that are involved and how those are structured. The posterior of our muscle person here. Then a little bit about cardiac muscle. We'll get back to this when we study the cardiovascular system. Just for our purposes now, basically all you need to really remember is that the cardiac muscle is the muscle of the heart. And smooth muscle. An important aspect to remember about smooth muscle is that it is under involuntary control. For example, the peristalsis, the contraction of our esophagus and small intestines, is under involuntary control, or as we will learn in our next section, this means under the control of the autonomic nervous system. And I'm ending with the same diagram that I started with to show you the different types of muscle and what their comparisons are. We've gone through quite a bit, especially in these last 3 PowerPoints that have to do with our studies in this unit, which are the integumentary system and the muscular and skeletal systems. Please, as I've emphasized many times, do not hesitate to contact me as soon as questions arise. The sooner you can clarify and ask questions, the sooner you will have your answers and will be on your way to a better, richer understanding of our fascinating human body and all of its systems. I bid you farewell for now and much success again in your studies.